Me during the summer, at ease, relaxed. Me during that really crunchy point of the semester.
Too much.
So here's some things that I find useful during inevitably at some point during the semester. Usually it's 4 or 3 weeks before the very end. You have everything kind of piling up. Assignments that are due and worth quite a lot. Exams that are kind of early rather than in the exam season. Sometimes there's annoying group projects as well. Sometimes there's a midterm that's closer to the end. And all of these things are happening at once. It just feels like too much. Sometimes it's like everything everywhere all at once. Very topical movie right this very second. Even just describing it makes me feel kind of stressed.
Avoiding stress isn't the secret.
It's one of the most reliably stressful parts of life as a student. So I'm making this video to describe the things that help me when I'm in that point of the term, in that really crunchy point. More broadly, these things help me anytime I'm feeling stressed as well. Okay, so 3 things. First thing is exhaling for longer than I inhale. This is really useful to me when I'm feeling overwhelmed in a specific moment. Like for instance, when I'm sitting down in an exam room for an exam that's timed, it's gonna have to get done within the next 60 minutes, and they do it that way so that you're kind of rushed. At those times, I kind of naturally feel myself tightening up, getting overwhelmed in a way that I know is not going to be helpful to my performance on the actual exam. When that happens, make your exhales longer than your inhales can help a lot. You can vary how long you do it for. The one I usually go to is inhale for 4 and then exhale for 6. So that would be something like in, out. Even just that felt nice. I'm a little nervous recording the video. Do that for like a minute. It really does do a state shift. I learned this from Andrew Huberman. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the part of your nervous system that helps relax and slow things down. It's like an instant phase shift. And you don't have to do the 4 and 6. You can do 2 and 4. You could do 8 and 10. You can also like start with shorter for both and extend it out as you go through, whatever works for you. But really I just end up doing the 4 and 6 most of the time. I'll also put a link in the video description to one of Andrew Huberman's short videos where he describes this whole protocol in more detail. So if you want a little bit extra on that, check that video out. That'll be good. He's great. Next thing is sleep. Everybody talks about sleep. You know it matters. Kind of feels lectury when people bring it up because most people are already trying to get their sleep as good as they can. It really does seem to make a difference for me, and I do genuinely try to over-index on sleep and put a little bit more effort into that when I'm at that point in the term, the crunchy point. In particular, something that I've been finding useful for the last year or so is trying to focus on the quality of my sleep during those times when life is hard and there's reasons to be stressed out. There's 3 things that I do to try to improve the quality of my sleep. The first is I wear an eye mask to really block out that extra light. Again, this is something that Huberman constantly harps on about, but you know, Matthew Walker does as well. All of the sleep science indicates that you don't want to be having bright light during the part of the day when you should be sleeping. For people with a typical schedule, that would be between somewhere around 10 p.m. to around 4 a.m. You don't want to have bright light. And so for myself, in my apartment, even if the blinds are fully closed, there's a little bit of light coming in, is what I'm trying to get at. So the eye mask helps with that. Also helps in the very early morning, blocking that out before I want to wake up because I use an alarm clock. Eye masks are great. There's a few that I've found helpful, in particular the Arctic Bear ones, I think they're called, which I got from Peter Attia as a recommendation. He's also suggested doing this. I'll put the link to those in the video description as well. Earplugs, that's the other one that I find really helpful too. This one is less of a must, though Tim Ferriss had been pointing this one out since way back in the day, and I'd gone on and off from using different kind of foamy ones. The ones I found most useful are these moldable silicone ones. They fit into your ear and they shape to it, and you just kind of roll them into a little ball and pat them in there. They block out the best for me and they fit in my ears the best. I'll put a link to those also in the description. You don't have to use these specific ones, but just sensory deprivation helps with my sleep quality. I find I feel better when I wake up with the same amount of time if I do these things. Another one that I don't always manage to do, but that I aspire towards, and I do find helpful when I'm able to do it, is to try to go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, or at least roughly the same time. It doesn't have to be exactly the same time, but say if it's within an hour and a half, even 2 hours within, say, 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. So going to bed around 11, waking up around 7. And the tighter I can get those windows of how closely to the same time I'm waking up each day and how consistently, it seems to make a difference. So I try to do that, but it's hard. Third thing that I'm going to talk about, the last one for this video, is make it smaller. This is another one that you've probably heard before. I've heard it many times before, but it's really one of those things where I feel like over the last year, the last few years leading up to this, I've been taking it more seriously and internalizing it, and it has been helping when I actually try to break things down into smaller units. It makes a difference. It makes it more manageable. And so there's many different ways in which this can apply. You know, if there's an assignment that's really complicated or a paper that you're trying to write, starting with a smaller bit. Maybe don't write the whole paper, write the introduction section, or write the first paragraph of the introduction section, or write the first sentence, the first word. It can get a little silly, but really sometimes when the resistance is strong enough, I have to write the first sentence. But that's sort of a way that I've heard it put quite a lot previously. A way that I've sort of been thinking about it recently is when there's all these different things that you're trying to deal with, make it smaller by dealing with one bit of that at once. So if you have assignments, exams, things for multiple classes, and you're trying to cope with the stress from all of that at once, it can feel like too much. And so what I'm suggesting here is just try to cope with one part of it. So the other two things that we talked about before, the sleep helps with kind of overall coping, the breathing helps in that very particular moment, but there's also room, I think, for kind of thinking about the combination of things that you're trying to deal with and that are making you feel stressed, and just approaching a specific part of it. So say you have 4 classes and 2 assignments due within each of those classes, just for simplicity's sake. Just try to cope with one assignment from one class at a time, sometimes. Because I'm a 90s kid and I used to fantasize about being Hercules when I was little, sometimes I find myself thinking about the Hydra. You remember that, with all the heads and stuff? You could think of this like trying to deal with one head of the Hydra at a time. The Hydra is all of those things, the obligations you have during the difficult points in the semester. Now, I realize that technically, in Hercules, when he cut the Hydra's head off, if I'm remembering correctly, 2 more heads grow back, right? And so you could take this analogy a little further, and I hope I don't push this too far, but you could think of attacking a head as a thing. But there's 2 ways in which you can attack a head. You can attack a head through acceptance, or you can attack a head through avoidance.
You don't want to go up? Nope.
And if you attack a head through avoidance, and kind of not doing the thing, or like doing something else to make the feelings go away, then maybe the head comes back twice because you didn't deal with it, and now there's late assignments, or you have to do some kind of makeup thing, or I don't know the exact analogy, but it can get worse sometimes if you attack it through avoidance. But if you attack it through acceptance, letting it be okay that it makes you feel stressed out, and letting it be okay that you don't quite have enough time, but to whatever extent possible, doing what you feel you should do, what aligns with your values, and taking those actions that you think matter on this one head of the Hydra at a time, is a way in which you can attack the Hydra that actually gets rid of the head. Cutting off one head at a time through acceptance is a way in which you can get rid of that head, and it's not necessarily going to come back. At least it's much less likely. In real life, the dragons are not material things, they're psychological things. And so it's a little harder to say. But I think in my own experience, and from what I've heard from others, often this kind of acceptance and then committed action, which is from acceptance and commitment therapy, which I like a lot, and it's influencing a lot of what I'm saying here, but I'm not going to talk about directly in this video. Acceptance and committed action helps the individual Hydra heads go away. You can make it smaller by dealing with one head at a time, whereas avoiding one head at a time is just going to lead to more proliferation of more heads. So that's it for me. I'm sorry if this was a little bit rambly. I really appreciate you checking out this video, especially from somebody with no other videos in their channel right now. It would mean a lot if you liked it and subscribed it, because maybe something else I make will be useful to you, and you could always unsubscribe later otherwise. Again, I described a bunch of things that'll be below the like button below, and thank you for your time and attention. Bye for now.